Well, recent Bigfoot sightings, UFOs, and other paranormal topics are among tonight's topics. I'm Heather Kovar along with Tom Reed and Frank Renda on The Know. And our guest is Ronny LeBlanc. He's a nationally recognized author, researcher, documentary producer, and TV star. Of course, possibly best known for his role as in Expedition Bigfoot, series 1 through 4. Do you think from doing the research and being involved in it, you learn how to kind of maybe bring this among yourself, or is it just kind of a deeper understanding, kind of looking in other directions, like a deeper intellect or something?
I do think it's almost like what Tesla was talking about, where there's we have all these different radio, channels going on at the same time. You don't pick up on them until you really tune into it. So there's been a cluster or a flap of Bigfoot sightings in northeastern Ohio. And Jeremiah Byron with Bigfoot Society podcast had recently uh, noticed this, got some information, and people started reaching out to him with these different daytime sightings, which is really rare to have within a small time frame, maybe 96, 120 hours in that same area. So that was just extremely odd. And then we've had a lot of aerial phenomena with meteors and fireballs daytime, again, rare as well, coming apart just right within that 25-mile radius of all these Bigfoot sightings.
Does seem like those recent Bigfoot sightings in Ohio were like an hour out of Cleveland, kind of into like a smaller, less populated area.
Yes. The piece that other researchers have noticed before is that the geology of some of these areas that have quartz, white or black quartz or granite, these are also seemingly some of these ley line areas where there's the energy lines that crisscross. And so some people believe that some of these things are portal locations. There was just another one yesterday in that same area. And then I
Okay.
just got a notification that there's a tornado warning in that same spot. So, like, wow, they're getting pummeled.
Yeah, I
Those,
saw your
those residents
Instagram
be putting their
post.
house up for sale. Go ahead. I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
I saw your Instagram post about like a week ago about all the
Yeah,
Ohio sightings and how it seemed that where those broke up were right there next to the, really close to the Bigfoot sightings. And so
well,
how can this all be interconnected?
yeah, and the whole fact too that the we could talk about as well is like these were all daytime sightings in the same county, which is very rare. So they were definitely moving through, whether people believe migration or what have you, but to have that cluster in that immediate area is very rare. I'm aware of a farm that's in central Massachusetts that the owners are aware that a couple times a year there's a group of Sasquatch that come through and grab food and pull livestock from their farm, and they just expect it to happen. So I think there's almost like this underground railroad.
And they were considered credible sightings. What makes a credible sighting? I mean, there aren't photos. So like what?
So yeah, some of these sightings can be a matter of seconds. And what's fascinating, so you'll have like nighttime stuff, and that's when they're typically more active. But the fact that they were seeing these in broad daylight clearly could distinguish. And we had, I think, across the 8 sightings or so, there are about, I think, what sounds like 4 or 5 different individuals. So they were talking, one was 10 feet, one was 6.5, one was 8. So those could be, misjudgments on the height as well from the different individuals and all that. But it sounds like there's a lot more moving through than just one or two.
So through your research, you kind of believe that all the different possibly things like the Bigfoot and the meteors and the different sightings and maybe even orange orbs could all be related in some way.
Yeah, there's we notice now like where before there's earthquakes, they have earth lights, and some people will see some of these orbs. But throughout history, even before I believe the Black Plague, there were fireballs in the sky. So these are always seen as almost like omens of something negative happening. And I talked to somebody from Western Massachusetts, from Tom's area. I think Munson had witnessed a Bigfoot a few years ago, broad daylight, and he said, what was odd to me is I saw it, the features, the face, and then the next day there was a tornado in 2011 that ripped through Western Mass and Central Mass. And he thought it was almost like an omen, seeing this Bigfoot prior to this catastrophe. That's
When
been noted.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you said it was kind of my part of the woods, you're referring to the Berkshires then in general.
Yes. Yeah.
They see spheres, they see odd things in the woods. You know, the corn grows really tall, and some people get sick, and some people are, seeing, what would be said to be possibly a Bigfoot.
Some of these things are portal locations, and the Sheffield area actually has I believe, a very strong ley line crisscross where that's believed where the veil is thinnest in some of these areas. The area is rich with weirdness for sure,
To say the least.
especially Western Mass. I think there's just so much activity and sightings there. More people are having experiences as they're out hiking or hunting, and so it's starting to, I think, coalesce a little bit more.
Are you familiar with the Nike missile sites that were there, the NORAD tower in Dalton, what Sprague Electric was working on back in the '60s, and GE and the rest of them, and the space race and all that? Are you familiar with all that? I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
going on. There's
Oh
underground
yeah.
tunnels.
Not many people know too that the U.S. Army headquarters is in Natick, Massachusetts. So you have MIT in Westford. They have a laboratory there.
Yeah,
So
MIT's right across the street from NASA.
yeah.
Yeah,
So and
yeah,
we have there's a if everyone's familiar with CERN, the Large Hadron
yeah.
Collider, they are building. There's a company called Commonwealth Fusion Systems that is building one at Fort Devens, or formerly Fort Devens, 5 miles away from here, and it's supposed to be one of the biggest fusion reactors.
Where do you
Well,
think are the biggest hotspots?
multiple portal locations like Bridgewater Triangle. There's a reason why this stuff keeps on happening over and over again. Montsland, Western Mass.
Sheffield still to this day has things happening, right, Heather? There were crop circles in 2012, crop circles in 2013, and you've got all this stuff happening all the time in this little village that doesn't want attention. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like they want to be known for it. They almost can't stand it, right? It's like when I go through town, it's not like, come on, Tom, have some coffee, have a beer with me. It's like, oh my God, Tom's here again, right? So it's not
Yeah,
like they, they don't want to be known for it. So they suppress it. But you have this little town that just all the time, right? And what was that girl? There was a woman, a woman on Housewives. She lives there. And she had this sighting a while back. Do you remember that? It made international news. She was on Fox and CNN. She had a UFO sighting in Sheffield,
yeah,
Massachusetts.
yes, yeah.
Dorinda.
I had an instance where we had a rock thrown from our backyard at our shed, made a hole in our metal shed, and I had a friend who was on Expedition Bigfoot remote viewed and told me that there were two beings cloaked in the backyard, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And he's saying that the juvenile had thrown the rock, and again, I'm in this, and I still wasn't accepting this as. I'm like, "Come on, you're pulling my leg." And a couple days later, I went out at the edge of the deck at 3 in the morning, and I said, "All right, I'm gonna see if I can get this thing to throw another rock." And I kind of wasn't sleeping, and I almost felt like I was beckoned out there, so to speak. And my way of testing this was, I'm not going to do it verbally. I'm going to just do it mentally and see what happens. So I stood at the edge of the deck, and I just, in my mind, said, "Okay, if this is real, I want you to throw another rock at the shed right now." And I mean right effing now. And before I could say now, a rock hit the shed. And it was like somebody dumped a bucket of ice up water over my head, all through my whole body. And I was just like, "Okay, you're in charge. I'm going to bed." I'm like, "Holy crap, that just worked." So my daughter heard it, opened the window, heard the rock hit, and 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I'd be like, all right, now
So there's
stop
a
throwing rocks
connection.
at my shed.
Yeah. So it's almost as if they're aware once we tune into them, or we tap into that, and that goes with UFOs and Bigfoot stuff and other cryptids.
What do you feel? What do you see? What do you sense?
So consciousness, the idea is that we believe, is it limited to just what's inside our brain, but consciousness, I believe, is a field that interacts with everything else. I believe consciousness was here before humans. It's not just inherent in us, it's in every living being. So when I did for Expedition Bigfoot, I went into a meditative state and just got connected to the area, and then you could feel when something started to come into your field.
My son actually was tested for forms of remote viewing. He scored higher than coincidental chance. One day I was with Travis Walton. We were in where were we? We're at Scarefest, and they had like something going on there, right? And so my son was with me because he used to travel with me, and they tested him there, and Travis was there. A bunch of people were there. Houdini's son was there, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
and yeah, and so was Elvira. Um, and he did it there too. He tested like higher. He scored higher than he should have. And my son will tell me like, he doesn't really know. It's just that it just comes to him. Like
It's
he doesn't
genetic, and
feel anything. It's not like an energy. It's just he just knows. It's
it's
like
a
all
knowing.
knowing.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's like
it's like what they call clear cognizance, where you just get information, you get downloaded. I was in a dream, and I open up my eyes, and I'm in the motel room, and I look up at the ceiling, and it looked like a pool, but upside down. It was almost like a suction that it started lifting me off the bed. Well, I woke up midair and landed on the bed.
I was always dreaming of portals and going through them. It was like always, and I'm not a big swimmer. I don't like the water that much, but it was always swimming underwater for a while into some other place, into
yeah.
a whole
Underworld.
different, yes. Dreams were always so real. I would sometimes even question, like, did that happen? Did I go there? And it
Mm.
was more like entering, like kind of swimming and going through kind of like tunnels, and then you finally come up in a different area that's kind of cave like. But then sometimes through those caves, sometimes it would be just a different area that was underwater, but where we were just up and kind of sitting rocks. Sometimes I would emerge into like somebody's house that wasn't my house. It was like I was trespassing, but I was in somebody else's house, and that's
Mm.
also sometimes comes back.
Wow.
What was yours
So
like, Thom?
when you came to in someone else's house, you can go back to where you came from, or you struggle to find your way back, or
I
can you?
never, I
Oh,
never, I never struggled. I never struggled. I remember there was sometimes like, oh, I hope I don't get caught or something, or should I be here? But it's like somehow I was, and I knew where it was. I knew where it's like you go through the back of this house. The front's normal, and then you go through, and then to the back of it turns into this whole other world.
I'm walking across this big foggy white chessboard, and when I get to a certain block, I can drop through to another glass chessboard, and then I experience something there, and then I walk further, and it's either the black spot or the white spot, the checkers, and then that takes me down even further to somewhere else, and I go further and further and further, and like in history, certain blocks go to certain places. Then I just walk across to this area, and that takes me down or wherever to another portal. When my son was doing the testing, I ran into another doctor there, because I was in the lobby and talking to other people, and they had this like, it looked like an air hockey table, but it had ping pong balls on it and like goalposts and all this kind of stuff in circles. And they brought it right into this room I'm in right now. This used to be the dining room, and so they laid the thing down and they put this apparatus on my head that amplifies your brain signal, and so they were like, "Can you move the ping pong ball?" And they put it on this like air hockey thing, and it must have been about 4 feet long. It was a big table, like maybe 2.5 feet, 3 feet wide. And I'm trying to move the ping pong ball. I'm like, "Hey, go, right, like go," and I couldn't move it at all. Right, I was just like struggling with it. I'm like, I can't do it. And so the daughter of the instructor or teacher or the one that was a doctor at the testing facility, she put it on because I guess she's practiced with it like a big shot, right? So she's going to show me up. And so she was able to move this little thing, ping pong ball, all around I'd say go through, we were all like, can you do this? Can you do that? And she would be able to move the ping pong ball,
Mm.
through these loops and everything. And I'm like, how are you doing that? By the end of the night, I really was able to move this ping pong ball across this table, go through hoops and everything else. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I guess it amplifies the signals, the neurons, the energy, and your electricity in your brain. And the way they described it to me too was like, you don't want to try to do it. You just will it.
Of course.
You mentioned cloaked, them being cloaked. Can you elaborate on that for anybody that doesn't know what that means?
So the best way to describe it, if people have seen the movie Predator, it's that they're going invisible. And we actually captured this on Expedition Bigfoot in season 3 in Olympic Peninsula, which is known as the Mecca for Sasquatch activity. And if you ever done a shadow puppet as a kid with your flashlight in your hand and you create that shadow, that's essentially what happened with Dr. Murray and I were working down this river, and there were rocks falling opposite of us from top of this 70, 80-foot cliff. And so something was paralleling us as we were working along this river at night. And I just yelled up to it. They actually edited this out, but I yelled up, "Hey, we know you're up there. Just show yourself." And a few minutes later, all these rocks come tumbling down, and we both turn with our flashlights standing side by side. And this river is between us and this rock face, so there's nothing there. And when we turn our flashlights, suddenly we couldn't see it, but the lights actually created the shadow of it, the cloaked Bigfoot on the rock wall. And we could see the shadow, and we could see the hair on the outline of the shadow as it walked, just like almost like the Patterson Gimlin film. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, same thing, and I believe that they're interdimensional in nature, just based off of what Native American cultures talk about, and even present day. I had someone with a certain tribe in Oklahoma is like, they're not from around here. Like they can, turn into spirit and back into matter and this kind of stuff. So they're alien in nature, and there's reports of them coming out of UFOs and seeing lights descend from the sky, and suddenly Bigfoot type creatures appear. So, maybe Bigfoot can see in these different light spectrums, and we probably look like a flashlight walking in there at night, glowing. So
do you think that they come from a more advanced civilization?
I don't think so. I think they're just tied into nature.
But there's openings that they know where these portals are?
Yeah. And there's tribes that know how to use some of these portals as well. There's reports of, and I talk about that in my new book about cryptids and even Bigfoot sharing those similar traits where they're transparent or cloaking. But what if we recently discovered that there is conscious life forms that are plasma based, and they've been living alongside us all this time, and we just figured it out? So I think that is what some people are calling plasmoids and all this stuff, but that could be
Plasmoids.
the other piece that's
Can you jot that down, Heather?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's plasmoids.
Yes.
And what does that mean exactly? I'll wait. Yeah, drink.
It's just what some people are referring and calling these plasma-based beings. But then there's other interpretations of these things being plasma-based or made of what looks like fire, like a phoenix or a fiery dragon. And this is another type of cryptid, but seems to be almost spiritually based or plasma-based. And that's what we witnessed in Leominster 5 years ago. And so people are seeing, these orbs that are what looks like fire or plasma as well. And some of these are seen splitting off into smaller ones and joining other craft. So for me, it was like, okay, not all these UFOs are nuts and bolts craft. Some of these are living entities that people are seeing flying around. And almost like think of the ideas of medieval days and dragons, and that sounds like whatever.
I have a question about Folk, Arkansas. Are you familiar with that? The Legend of Boggy Creek?
Sure.
Every year around Halloween, they have a camp out. They used to have the guy. It was the Legend of Boggy Creek was actually his family story, and he actually I don't know if he was the son or the grandson, but he actually played the monster in the movie. And he recently passed away. But they used to do a camp out, and he used to tell you about what actually happened with that. And then they have some other people from the local area, and they say they see Bigfoot all the time, but they don't make a big deal out of it because they don't want to have, like you mentioned earlier, people coming, swarming it, and disrupting the whole the whole scene.
Yeah.
The energy field.
Yeah, well, it's wild that there's people that are like, they know that these exist. If you go Pacific Northwest, you'll see Bigfoot stuff everywhere. It's just accepted that they're there. There's a tribe in the Pacific Northwest that tracks the Bigfoot and where they're going and what sections of the forest they're at, so the other tribes don't go there. So they let them hunt. So they give them their space and their time to go through this stuff. So I think there's pockets like that all over the country, probably.
We have 9 million species here. 9 million. So what's 9 million in one?
Nature itself seems to be conscious and connected to even what we're doing. So
It's all connected.
yeah, like spirit animals and all these different things, but also nature will communicate with you. If you're paying attention, you'll have signs, whether certain people come into your life, synchronicity, all those things. I talk about the Mandela effect, all of this that point to we're living in a multi-dimensional universe.
Because I've heard people with a more scientific mind say things like, where the quarries and the quartz, sometimes when you find running water with it, there's energy, there's gold, there's whatever. And so maybe it's just all some magical concoction that comes together in a perfect storm. Hey, Thom, remember we had someone on that said that like the monks use a deep meditative state to see some of these different entities.
I've learned to pay attention to my gut or some of those feelings, especially if I can visualize it.
Yeah, I think there's more nerve endings in your gut than anywhere else in your body.
That's correct. Yep. In my opinion, I feel like there's going to be a mass UFO sighting that everybody sees. And that's what's intriguing with all the fireballs and everything. It seems to be escalating to a place. And I think that everyone's going to see something together at the same time.
What it's going to take, really, I think, right? So that where a lot of people see something so that it's not just considered, off.